And so we come to the final part of making this 5/8 5 TPI right hand tandem unipass ACME tap to cut this new bronze nut for the lead screw for the saddle for my Herbert Junior surface grinder Mark II. I'm glad this series is coming to an end because that's a lot to say. Anyway, in this one we get it done. Hope you like it. Well, the next thing on this will be to part it off and cut the square on the end. Well, that's the tap finished in its soft state. I'm going to try and cut that delrin again. I've cut a spiral like a draft thread, that's not the right word, is it? A thread in the delrin, so I'm hoping it's going to pick up on this. Well, I suppose if I can't cut the delrin with the tap soft, I'm going to have to harden and temper it and then run the grinder along here to try and sharpen up those teeth and see how that works. Well, it's a bit easier to deal with off the lathe. Must tidy this workbench sometime. I don't think I can cut very far without this fouling up with the chips, if you get chips off delrin, that is. Oh, there they go. Swarf then. We might be in luck. Right, give me a while, I'll come back. Either I'll have cut this delrin or the tap will have broken. You know, maybe if I get far enough to prove it, I might just harden it anyway before I go too far with it. Don't know, we'll see. Well, it was cutting that delrin quite well. I think it's going to work. I don't see any reason though to take any more risk with it. So the next thing to do will be to harden it, temper it, and then sharpen it. Get my oil tray. This is old oil, heading for the tip at some point. Right. And get this to cherry red. Hang on. Fumbling. I'm not getting enough heat into it. I can get it cherry red at one end, and by the time I get to the other end, and that brick is breaking up and spitting at me. That's no good. The problem is all the heat's getting past it. I can't get it to cherry red all the way along, just one end or the other. So I used to have some fireboard, but I don't have that anymore. So I've got this, like, it's not asbestos, but you get the idea. An asbestos soldering rag that you would put behind pipes when you're using flame soldering. It might destroy it, but it doesn't matter, we'll just try. Well, it's destroyed my cloth as I thought it might, but I'm happy that was cherry. I didn't try the old magnet test. I didn't want to burn my fingers, to be honest. Okay, so we clean this up now, get it in the oven at 250, then quench it again. Do you think my wife will mind if I take that in the kitchen and it just smokes a bit in there? I don't know. Women can be so fussy, can't they? I didn't make that joke, by the way. That wasn't my joke. I didn't say that. If anybody's listening, I didn't say it. To be honest, I'm not very good at cooking, but I've got the book. Fish, chicken, beef, Oh, here we are, 5/8 ACME, 240 degrees, 20 minutes, that should do. They tell me you shouldn't undercook things, so what have we got here? Oh, it's not really reading very well, I can't tell. 170? Not enough. Needs a bit more. No, don't want to get that stuck inside. Ah, no, it won't go in now. That's it. That'll do. Needs more. Needs longer. What do you think? You fancy trying it?
Yeah.
She said. Lady says no. I'm not having much luck with this cheapo temperature sensor. I mean, it reads here okay, and it's showing lower there. But when I try it on the piece, it's reading about 180, whereas this oven seems to be at 240. I've got this Heston Blumenthal, who's a chef around here, cooking thermometer. So I'm going to shove this in here. Just, oh, I can't get it in, can I? Can't get in here. What's that showing? It's not going to work like that. Oh, 75, 89. It's never going to work like that. This is why I keep out of the kitchen. Well, it's been in for about 30 minutes. I can't get my gauge to read above about 190, but then again it's only against, you know, something like this, like a stick, so it might be giving a false reading. I'm just going to go for it, and then we'll just have to see how hard the thing is and try and judge. Here goes. Right, fingers crossed then. I'll just have to try it with a file or something, and you know, the problem is if it's not been tempered, I could snap it. Hey ho. Okay, next day. Well, about this, does it focus? I think it's okay. I got it to cherry red, and just a dull red, and I think that's good enough. It's very difficult. I couldn't heat it with that propane in free space. There was just too much heat loss. Couldn't get it to that. But on that heat-proof blanket, which by the way did disintegrate, I could just about get it hot enough. Now I wish I'd done the magnet test. You probably know when you get steel to the level, the heat, to be able to temper it, if it's suitable, it loses its magnetism. So a simple test with a magnet tells you if you've got it hot enough. But with everything else going on, and because this is the first time I've ever tried to do this, ever, that I can remember, there was too much going on, and I was more concerned about getting it even temperature than I was about magnetism. But so then with the tempering, did I get it hot enough? Now using that press button cheap probe thingy, I couldn't get above 190 when I was just holding it against this like this. But when I used the tester and stuck it in the oven bin, it was reading about 130. Well, there would have been a bit of cold air mixing there, so maybe it was at 140. So I tested it after 20 minutes, then I tested it again after another 10 minutes, and it didn't make any difference. So perhaps it was at 240 or thereabouts, which should be just about okay. That corresponds to an oxidization color of brown, which is what you would want to aim for. Now going forward, I've looked at the cost of tempering heat treating ovens, and even a small one is probably £350, $400 US, and it's a bit of a size as well. So I don't think I'll be buying one of those in a hurry. I think next time I just do the magnet test. Now I've just bought a couple of fire bricks. They're quite thin, an inch wide, and maybe this tall and that long. Now two together on an angle like that might be fine, and I can work with that in future. Anyway, the question is it okay? Well, if I just use this bit of mild and tap this on here, sounds pretty dead, doesn't it? But if I just tap this on the table, that sounds pretty hard to me. Yeah, so I'm going to have a go at grinding this now. I'm going to set up on here. I'd said before the surface grinder, but actually I've got a couple of small grinding stones, and if I make a mount for them, put the ER32 collet holder on here, cover everything up with plastic so I'm not getting grinding material on the table and in the oil and all of that, and I think I'll have a go at grinding the flutes to really sharpen them, and I might look at trying to grind a relief on it as well. We will see. So I'll get the stone mounted up first. This parting blade makes it easy, but it still worries me at times. So this is the idea, and put that in the mill. Now I don't have a diamond dressing tool at the moment. I've bought one. It's probably about 10 days away, coming from China, maybe a week away now. But I think this will be fine as it is. Talking about T-nuts. So I got these from you know where, that place beginning with C, Cathay, from Wish. Wish is an online platform, super cheap, and these are super rubbish. You can see how offset that hole is. The threads are barely cut deep enough. The end of it is cut completely cockeyed here. I'm not saying they're all like that, I'm just saying the ones I bought are like that. And then these I got from a company in the UK called Berger, I think, hang on. B-E-R-G-E-R, so Berger maybe. Berger Tools in the county of Kent, United Kingdom. And these were about £2.30 a piece. I bought 10, they arrived practically the next day, I think it was the next day. The threads are full, they're properly formed, they're 10 grade. And honestly, by the time I'd messed about making something, I just couldn't, you know, although I don't pay myself for my time still isn't free. Not free to me anyway. So this rubbish we can forget, and these I think are pretty good. £2.30 is about $2.80 US. That's near enough. Let's try it on the high range. I'll let that run a while and warm the machine up a bit, then I'll take it up to 2000. Well, hopefully that'll keep the grinding dust off the bed. I'm just going 2 thou at a time, but I think that's done, so I'll just do the other 3 now. And I'm not really putting the table up. That's not so critical. It's more that I'm going this side to sharpen the teeth, and they do seem to be sharp. Hope you can see that. These bits are shiny, the rest of it's black, and they feel pretty sharp to me, so I think that's working. And I think this is hard. Registration wasn't perfect, was it? Because look, it's cutting the root of this, but it's not cutting the outside, but that doesn't matter because that's just clearance. This lower is the cutting edge. What do you think? I think that's okay. Now, I did wonder about trying to put some relief on these here, and I've seen tap relief grinder jigs, but they only really work on the parallel part. They're not so good on the tapered part, because it holds the work like this, you see, and then it goes sorry, sound effects. But it's hard to do on the tapered part. So I could try just putting a bit of relief on by hand on the hand grinder, you know, the grinding wheel. Well, I was feeling brave, so I've put a bit of rake on by hand on these tops. But you have to be so careful, because one slip and you could ruin many hours of work. So that's as much as, or as close as I dare take it. Anyway, there's only one thing left to do now. We're going to have to try it. I tried cutting a thread in this piece of aluminium. Now the hole in there is 12 millimeters, but it was just really binding up and it was horrible. So I thought, well, maybe it will be different in a different material. So I've got this disc of bronze, and the hole in there already is 13.9. So we're cutting about 1 millimeter per side, because it's 5/8 is about 15.9. And this is going really nicely, actually. You can hear it. Listen to that. Now, obviously, this is the roughing out part. So let's get on to the finishing part, which is quite a bit bigger diameter. So we're on to the taper. Try not to cross thread. This is a bit harder. Can you hear it? Bit of WD. I don't know, I'm going to cut the full thread though. This is definitely working. I don't feel like the tap's about to break, but I'm about to wind that out of there. And we can try this on the screw, and we'll find out for the very first time if this tap is the right size. Oh, there we go. Sorry, blurred. We'll leave it at that. Right, will it go on the screw now? Okay, not full thread depth. Let's try it on the screw. Do you know what? That is absolutely perfect. There's barely any wobble on that. Even though, you know, it's only half a thread really, in depth, in terms of depth. There's almost no rock on it as well. So now, we have to do the real thing. I'm quite concerned about that, because it took a fair bit of force. So we're still in there with a chance. It's cutting this delrin easily now. So hardening it and sharpening it has done the trick. Look, that's pretty easy to do. And putting that relief on, I guess. I can almost go straight in, look, without a break. Let's clean the rubbish out of it though. Oops. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I think with the bronze bush, you know, I'm going to have to machine a thread on the inside on the lathe somehow, just as a sort of starter thread. That's my current feeling. I think it'll be too much for it to cut the whole thing just with the tap. We'll see. Now this is the right length and it's the right diameter as well as the replacement nut is what I'm saying. Not that that matters actually. And then we'll see if this fits on the screw. My advice is, if you're thinking about making one of these, but there's one available to buy, and it's less than, I don't know, 40 bucks, 30 quid, just buy it. Save yourself a lot of time. I mean, I've picked up skills. It's the first time I've ever hardened and tempered carbon steel, I think. Now, is that through enough? I'll maybe try it from the other end as well. Well, we're still in the game. That's a full thread in there, and it wasn't that difficult to cut. And there's no play on it that I can feel at all. Alright, now to do that in bronze. This is SAE 660. I think that's called gunmetal. It's a bit softer than phosphor bronze. And I understand, somebody told me, if you use this, it's easier to cut anyway, but when it wears this and shouldn't wear the screw so much. I'm just parroting stuff people have told me, I don't know it for certain. But it sounds right, it feels right. There we are. So tomorrow, probably, drill this out to 11 millimeters, part it off, mount it back in the chuck, and then I will rough out the threads if I can find this. Here we go. So I've got this 10 millimeter boring bar. I'll be working in an 11 millimeter hole. I don't know if that'll focus. Let's have a look. I've got that little peg there, which I'll need to advance manually because my side to side travel maximum on this boring bar is only going to be 1 millimeter. And then I've got a second cutter, which I'll put in. So I'll just tell you. So that's my second cutter there. And between the two of them, I'll just core out quite a bit of the material to make it easier for the tap. I mean, there's no way I could cut the thread like this and get it right, but I can core it out, I think. There's no prizes for breaking the tap. I know I talked about roughing out the thread on the lathe and then just finishing it with a tap, but I'm a bit concerned if I do that, the tap might not pick up in the right place and that would make a real mess of it. So I'm still trying to just drill a hole and tap it straight off. Now I drilled 11 millimeters. That's plenty clearance, but the tap isn't biting. So I reamed it 7/16, which is 11.17. That's not enough. So I looked online and I found this chart, which is extremely useful, which gives tapping drill sizes for ODs and teeth per inch. Now it's just off the scale there, but it's saying 0.445 inches for what we're trying to do here, which is 11.3 millimeters. So I don't have an 11.3 millimeter drill, nothing imperial is close, so I'm going to bore it. So I'm just clocking here, making sure that my boring bar is parallel to the work. Well, it looks like 11.3 did the trick. I got this started in the vise, but then I couldn't stop it spinning, so it'll have to be done in here. I can feel it cutting, but you just have to do a bit. Take it back, clean it out. It's going to be a long process. Well, this is a bit of a battle. So I screwed the tap in as far as I could. It was binding so much I thought I might snap it. So I've had to core it out. What I mean is take away as much material as I can, threading it. So I'll zoom into this in a second, but you can see there's a tiny little square tool there sticking out. This is actually 3/8, so about 9.4 mil. So I can come over 1.8 maximum. I've already cut to 1.7, and what I did with this over and across in forward drive, but with the lead screw engaged, so all of the backlash was taken up, I compared that edge there to one of these threads on this tap. So I landed that indexed right in the middle of one of these, and it means it's literally cutting in the center of the thread, and I can see that it's cutting in the center of the thread where the tap has already cut threads. So if this be still too tight like this, I think I'll have to make the hole a little bit bigger. Well, I'm getting there, look, but I'm just really scared by the amount of force I have to put on this. I'm trying to keep both hands equal pressure so I don't snap it. I could probably persevere like this, but I might take another 0.1 off. So I started with 11 mil hole, which is a clearance hole, went to 11.3 as you saw on that table, on that chart, then to 11.4. I might just creep up to 11.5. But I have an admission to make to you, and the admission is that I didn't think I was going to be able to make this tap work, and I panicked and I bought one, and just this moment I got a ping on my phone which said the tap has been delivered. Now, I don't want you to think that I didn't have confidence in my own work, but I honestly didn't think I was going to be able to make that tap. So I'm just, I could have not told you about this. I'm just going to fess up. That's what I did. So I'll get this open and we'll have a look and see what it's like. It's very light, actually. It was about, I bought it from eBay US, but it was shipped from China, so I don't seem to have had any surcharges for buying it on eBay US. Thanks to Kim Bazelic, he's the one who pointed out to me that this tap was for sale on the US site. It may actually be on sale in the UK site now. It's quite light and it's not very long. Oh, it's one of them. Oh, how many layers? It's like past the parcel. Well, it's not that different from mine in terms of the amount of taper on it. It's a very nice tap. It's lovely and shiny. 5/8 ACME. Right. Yeah, it's tapered from about there. So it's still quite a short taper. You can see it's ground. It looks ground to me with these dark edges. This tap starts at 11.55 as best I can measure when I get vertical across those edges there. What do you think? 11.5. Oh, that's cheating. Okay, well that means I should be able to go to 11.5 then, to make it an equal competition. Well, I thought I'd give this a go, just see how it felt. And I didn't go very far because I wasn't happy. It was trimming the sides of the threads. And I was a bit worried it would make this nut too loose for the screw that I've got. So I tried on this piece of bronze, which I'd earlier put my tap through, you probably saw it. And it's made it really quite loose. It's no better than this, to be honest. So although this tap is a bit sharper, I'm going to carry on with my own tap because I know it suits this screw. But I will bore this out to 11.5 or 11.55 maybe, to make it equal with this tap. If that's what they think is right, well, maybe that is right. The other thing about this tap is there's no relief on it. So when I was trying to cut this, it was squeaking like crazy as it was binding. When it got onto the parallel part, it was still binding because there was no relief. I'm not saying it's a bad tap, it's probably fantastic for what I paid, £35 total delivered. But I'm still going to keep going with my own. I've got this out of the chuck so I can turn it around and work from the other end, and then I can take a reference off the original diameter, because I only want to take another 0.1 off the diameter. But you can see how much I've cored out of it. Look at the thread form here, just boring out to just try and remove material, that's all. Well, just a couple more things to say before I finish for today. I ran the new tap through this delrin, and although it's slightly looser than it was when I cut it with my own tap, it's not terrible. And it's certainly better than the original nut. So that is my backstop to use the new tap. But look where I am with my own tap. I'm through to there. Another couple of turns and the pressure should be reducing. I think the problem is I made these roughing out teeth too chunky. I think there's a reason why when you look online you see them, they're quite a bit more spiky than this. But we'll keep going. If it breaks off, then I've got nearly 2 inches of bronze spare, and you know, we'll use that with a new tap. But I will keep trying with this tomorrow maybe. Well, I thought since it's beginning to go through and it's getting easier to turn, I'd try with this bigger wrench and hold this in a V-block in the vise. Not a chance, look. Can't stop it spinning, so it's back to the lathe. Just takes so much force. Right, we're just about through with this roughing side. I tell you what, this tap is sharp enough. If you've any doubts, I've just cut myself on my thumb, just grazed on one of these edges here. So there's no doubt that tap is sharp. I'm cutting at this. Yeah, it's going, it's going, it's going. You can hear that cutting. I'm just trying to keep out of shot. Look, there's plenty coming out there. Just cutting oil, neat cutting oil. Even this second part, and it's not taking that much off, is really quite difficult to turn. You know, why didn't I think of this in the first place? Do this, then edge it back on the gearbox and do this. Well, they say you shouldn't toot your own horn. I like that phrase. Well, believe me, this went on First time, no adjustment, absolutely perfect. I can't get any movement on it whatsoever. And I know that this screw goes right to the bottom of the thread on its major diameter, because there was a very bit of a tight spot, a very little tight spot, and I just had to file a little bit off the crest. Because this is 5/8 and this is machined to 5/8, because I started with a 5/8 bar to make the tap. Now that tap I bought from China, probably correctly, by the way there's a car running in the background, but we'll ignore that, probably correctly was major diameter on the tap was about what was it, 16.3, something like that. Well, 5/8 is about 15.9. Nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong. But this is like bespoke, made to measure. Really pleased with it in the end. All those agonies I think were worth it. Next time, would I do it again? I don't know. I might just go the other way and make a bespoke threading tool to thread inside. I mean, I could probably do it with a 8mm diameter shank, and that might be okay. The problem is you're working over what you'd need about 2.5 inches absolute minimum, and there's quite a lot of spring in that. So anyway, I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching. And there's the old one.